The number on your screen is negative $412. It's 11:47 at night. You are calculating exactly how many days you can survive on instant noodles before payday. You have a degree you don't use and $45,000 in student debt. You check your bank account with one eye closed. You hold your breath at the grocery checkout line, waiting for the card reader to approve a $34 transaction. You think $10,000 would solve every single problem in your life. You're convinced that if you just made $80,000 a year, you would be perfectly, unconditionally happy. You rent an apartment with a roommate who steals your almond milk. You complain about capitalism on a $1,200 phone you bought on a payment plan. You buy a $7 iced coffee to feel something, a microscopic rebellion against your own poverty. You are a function of the system, surviving purely on anxiety and cheap dopamine. Your entire existence is a high-wire act with no net. You tell yourself this is temporary. You are grinding. You are building. You are almost right. You saved it. It took 3 years, 2 side hustles, and an unhealthy amount of isolation, but you have 5 figures in a savings account. You feel a strange, fragile sense of pride. You call it an emergency fund. You sleep slightly better for exactly 3 months. Then the transmission on your car explodes. The repair costs $4,200. You need a root canal. That's another $1,800. In 2 weeks, half of your net worth vanishes. You realize for the first time that safety is not a milestone. It is a subscription fee, and the universe auto-renews it whenever it wants. You rebuild the account. You start tracking your expenses on a spreadsheet. You optimize your grocery list. You are playing defense. You realize you cannot save your way to freedom. You have to earn your way out. You start looking at the people above you, wondering what they know that you don't. You get promoted. Your salary crosses the 6-figure mark. You start to breathe differently. You buy a house at a 7% interest rate in a neighborhood with good schools. You call the house an asset. You don't realize the bank calls you their best yielding asset. You drive a leased luxury sedan. You buy organic avocados without looking at the price per pound. You think you've made it. You haven't. Your net worth is entirely illiquid, tied up in home equity you can't eat and a 401k you can't touch for 30 years without the IRS punishing you. You still look at the price tags on menus at nice restaurants. You are exactly one severe medical emergency or corporate downsizing away from absolute zero. The stress hasn't disappeared, it just wears a nicer suit. You spend your weekends at hardware stores. You are comfortable, which is the most dangerous thing you can be. Comfort is the anesthetic that stops you from realizing you are still on the treadmill, just running on an incline. Your title is director, or vice president, or senior partner. You make $250,000 a year. You are what the IRS calls a high earner. You are what your friends call rich. You are what the actual rich call the working class. You take vacations to Tulum and Santorini, but you spend 4 hours a day on your laptop by the pool, terrified that if you drop the ball, your corporate overlords will replace you with a 28-year-old who doesn't need sleep. You feel an acute, low-level exhaustion at all times. You have traded your youth and your peace of mind for an upper-middle-class existence. You realize the gap between $500,000 and $5 million is much wider than the gap between 0 and $500,000. You double down. You work harder. You stop seeing your old friends because they complain about rent, and you don't know how to relate to them anymore without sounding condescending. You hit the $1 million mark. You expected a parade. You expected a profound psychological shift. Instead, you get a tax bill. You realize $1 million is just middle class with a kitchen island. It is quiet. Too quiet. You look at your portfolio. 7 figures. But you can't spend it. If you liquidate, you pay capital gains. If you retire, inflation will eat you alive in a decade. So you keep working. You argue with your spouse about private school tuition and the cost of the landscaping service. You sleep 6 hours a night. You work 60 hours a week to maintain a lifestyle you barely have time to enjoy. You don't feel rich. You feel trapped by your own overhead. You tell yourself you just need $5 million to finally relax. The goalpost moves. It always moves. You stop checking your bank account and start checking the S&P 500 futures at 4 a.m. Your mood is dictated by central bank press conferences. You are officially tethered to the macroeconomic machine. You sell a small business, or you vest your tech equity. You are liquid. You have $5 million in cash and diversified assets. You walk into a car dealership and buy a sports car in cash. You feel nothing. The dopamine hit lasts exactly 36 hours. You suddenly realize you have a new full-time job protecting the money. You hire a wealth manager who charges you 1% to put your money in index funds you could have bought yourself. He speaks to you in percentages, tax loss harvesting, and alternative yields. You start flying first class. You stop carrying your own luggage. You realize that your friends from your 20s are looking at you differently. They don't see you anymore. They see a bank. Your cousin pitches you a restaurant idea at Thanksgiving. You politely decline. He doesn't speak to you for 3 years. You start making friends with other people who have money, not because you like them, but because they are the only ones who understand the specific paranoia of having something to lose. 8 figures. You are officially in the top 1%. You stop looking at the right side of the menu. You stop caring about the price of anything that isn't real estate or private equity. You buy a second home. You realize a second home is just a second set of maintenance problems, property taxes, and security systems. You outsource your life. You have a house manager, a nanny, a personal trainer, a driver. You have bought back your time, but you don't know what to do with it. You sit in your home theater on a Tuesday afternoon and feel an overwhelming sense of dread. The drive that got you here was rooted in survival and ego. Now that survival is guaranteed, the ego demands more. You make one moral compromise to avoid a 20% capital gains hit. Nothing criminal, just a gray zone, an offshore entity, a creative valuation. You don't feel guilty. You feel like you finally understand the rules of the game. You fire your wealth manager. You are too big for a retail bank. You set up a family office. You hire a CEO just to manage your net worth. You employ analysts whose only job is to deploy your capital into venture funds, private credit, and commercial real estate. You stop thinking about money as currency. Money is now just points on a scoreboard. Money is ammunition. You take board seats. You invest $2 million into a startup founded by a 24-year-old dropout. The startup burns through the cash and fails in 18 months. You write it off against your gains. You don't even blink. Individual transactions feel entirely abstract. You buy a passport from a Caribbean nation you visited twice, just for the tax arbitrage. You are legally a resident of nowhere. You fly private because the commercial airport is a security risk and a waste of your time. You are completely insulated from society. Every interaction you have is transactional. People don't talk to you, they pitch you. Your children go to schools where the parking lot looks like a luxury car show. You worry your kids will grow up soft, so you manufacture artificial hardships for them. It doesn't work. You do not have a salary. You have liquidity events. The TSA is a concept you vaguely remember from a past life. You buy a house in Aspen. You visit it twice a year for a total of 12 days. The staff lives there more than you do. You fund a local politician's campaign. Not because you believe in their vision, but because you need a zoning law changed for a massive commercial real estate development. Your fund is backing. The law passes. It works. The system works exactly as it was designed to. You haven't felt nervous about a credit card decline in 20 years. You aren't sure if that's confidence or a total numbing of the human experience. You have a philanthropic foundation in your name. You give away $3 million a year to art museums and hospitals. It buys you social capital, good PR, and a massive tax deduction. You are invited to closed-door dinners in Davos. What matters in this industry is rarely said in a room full of people. You speak in code. You talk about macro headwinds and geopolitical positioning. You are not a person anymore. You are a moving economy. The number on your screen has 9 digits. You do not check it. Other people check it for you. You have an estate lawyer, a tax lawyer, a litigation lawyer, and a defamation lawyer on retainer. You do not own things in your own name. Your trusts own holding companies, which own offshore entities, which own the super yacht, the private jet, and the art collection. You are technically a private individual with 0 taxable income on paper. You no longer see people as humans. You see them as consumer demographics, labor units, and operational leverage. You don't read the news. You buy the media outlet to control the narrative. You have dinner with senators. They ask you for advice. You tell them what policies will be good for the economy, which is a synonym for your portfolio. You short the currency of a developing nation because your quantitative analysts found a weakness in their central bank's reserves. Your trade causes their inflation to spike. Millions of people you will never meet can no longer afford basic staples. You don't read the reports about it, you just look at the yield. It is not illegal, it is simply asymmetric warfare. 10 digits, $1 billion. You sit at the absolute apex of the food chain. You don't run trades, you set allocation mandates. When your capital moves, secondary effects ripple across global markets before you even finish your morning espresso. You have a direct line to finance ministers and central bank governors. You sit down with lawmakers as a peer, not a lobbyist. You dictate terms to sovereign nations. You restructure debt for entire countries. When a government signals distress, you are positioned before the rating agencies downgrade. You are not trading on inside information. You are operating at a level of synthesis that produces foresight. You are the weather. You have a security detail that sweeps rooms before you enter them. You do not attend panels. You do not give interviews. You request through intermediaries that your name be removed from rich lists. Privacy is the ultimate luxury, and you have bought all of it. Privacy, trust, freedom, human connection. These are not things you lost. They are things you exchanged for power. You are not happy. You are not unhappy. Those categories are for mortals. Those categories dissolved a long time ago. You are simply a permanent read of the environment, a constant positioning of capital against global risk. You no longer know what you would do if you stopped. The momentum of the capital is self-sustaining. You serve the money now. The money does not serve you, so you don't stop. Somewhere far below, a 22-year-old lies awake in the dark in a cramped apartment. He looks at his bank app. Negative $412. He takes a breath. He watches a video about hustle culture. He thinks if he grinds hard enough, if he builds the right model, if he starts the right side gig, if he just gets his hands on enough capital, the money will make him whole. He thinks it will fill the void. He thinks it's about the money. He is already wrong. It was never about the money. It was always about the architecture underneath. The slow, methodical stripping away of your humanity in exchange for leverage. The machine doesn't stop. It doesn't care about your happiness. It just finds new people to run it. And you are just deciding which part of the machine you want to be.